Welcome to Self-Perfected.
Go live? I'm ready. Oh, okay.
Ready or not?
I'm ready.
Here we go.
We can do that. What, Drake? What's your
No
line?
countdown.
We can make it happen.
We can make that happen.
Hey,
That's good. Hey, everybody. Sorry to keep you waiting. Our dedicated
Katie.
How many people we got right away off the bat? How many join it?
Hold
Check that
on.
live.
You
80?
gotta check the live.
Okay.
Check the live.
Checking the live. It's me.
Zero.
Me watching.
We are late. Okay, actually there's two. There's two.
Hey.
Look at
Live
that.
update, live update.
There we go. Hey, everybody. Sorry to
Nice.
keep you waiting. What's going on? Hey, we got some cool stuff to talk about, though, Mitch and I. What's
yeah.
going on in the world of Drake and Christine?
We just had a clubhouse yesterday. We forgot to take pictures. We were having so much fun. And we were actually, it's really cool because with the local distributors that we have here, we've been sharing the vision of what we're going to create here, what we are in the process of creating here with the childcare and like all of that. And that's getting really exciting. Just to see how we're coming together and building that, and everyone's really like, okay, yeah, I can see how that works, and I can push myself to go do that. And so I'm not gonna share that just now, but you're gonna see what happens. You're gonna see what happens.
Hey.
We're making it happen, and you're gonna see it.
That's awesome. So you had a good clubhouse. What else?
Yep. Other than that, we just bought a couch. It might
I
arrive
was
in the
gonna
middle.
say, that was pretty exciting.
Arrive in the mail.
It might arrive in the middle of this podcast, is what I was
Oh.
gonna say.
Nice.
So
That'll be cool. We
That'll be
might buy a
fun.
cow. So you guys are getting a couch. We might get a cow. Yeah, maybe we can do some trades. I'll give you some milk if you let me like sleep on your couch, that kind of thing.
you can totally sleep on our couch.
That'd be cool.
It's really big. Actually, you and the entire family can sleep on our couch.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
pretty massive. It's a
Yeah.
big sectional.
That's cool. Oh, kind of like that one we have.
Yeah. It's funny because
Yes.
like Christine's been showing pictures of the couch to people, and like it's me sitting on the couch in the store, and like Christine's like, oh look at the couch, and then like she'll get a message 5 minutes later like, I didn't even notice Drake was there. That's a fucking huge couch. Yeah.
Like that's not Drake. That's part of the couch.
Exactly.
You know, I'm really, you guys got married, you got a new house together, but this is the real milestone right here when you buy a couch together.
You know, that's what the fucking couch salesman said. That's what he said.
I'm always thinking about what the salesperson would say. I'm just like, this would be the thing I would say.
When are you guys gonna get animals?
When we have more property. Like
have
neither of
actual
us really
land.
care for animals.
I see the plants you have back there, though. That's good.
They look like they're alive.
Let me ask, did Drake put those or Christine?
Drake actually put those. Do you think they're real though?
That was
Based
my
on your
next-
question? I have plants. Wait, I have 8 plants.
You had
What
plans.
happened to your plants?
Didn't I have 2 plants?
You did have
Yeah,
two
you did
plans.
have
Where'd
2 plans.
they go?
That's what this episode is. Where's Cameron's plan?
Fun. I don't know where it went.
What is that?
Maybe Katie must have taken it or
Lost
something.
and found.
She
Katie's
was
been-
like, Cameron's not
doing-
taking care of these. I got to take them under my care.
Katie's been doing the women's group up here, so maybe she must have done something.
Oh,
Maybe
true.
it's in a cabinet somewhere. I
In
don't
a
know. Maybe
cabinet.
needed
That's not
water.
good for the plant.
You guys, Cameron's office just keeps evolving. We got anyone who needs Unlock 4 Knocks, hit me up.
Got the new stock in
Got
here.
a bunch of Unlock 4 Knocks.
Hey, Mitch and I slaughtered some turkeys yesterday.
Oh, you
Oh,
should have
sick.
seen it. It was
Oh.
epic. Blood all over the hands.
Yeah,
Nice.
A
Tom.
little bit
we
of
got,
blood on my face.
We got Tom. And then like the female, obviously, the only 2 adult ones we had.
And then we pulled out the heart. I looked at it.
And,
I
and
thought
pretty
about it.
girl,
Still
pretty
beating.
lady. No,
Yeah, pretty-
Yeah. But no,
That's amazing.
today we're gonna fry up the heart and the liver, and I'm gonna eat it.
The
nice.
the turkeys were
Very
way
ritualistic.
it was way more I don't know, just intensive than the chickens. Like getting the right points to get them to bleed, and then like having to cut them up, and like because we didn't have bags big enough to put them in, so we had to use we just had to like go ahead and like cut the breasts off and all that stuff and put those in the bags.
Mm.
And that was just, it was not the same as a chicken. It was like just more meat. So it was like, I was like, man, when am I going to be done here cutting, you know? It was pretty crazy. And it was like, because we started it after dinner. So it was like already
By the
dark.
end, like the coyotes were coming out.
It was like dark when we were cutting them up, you know, and it was like we had like the floodlight over under by the carport, you know, and we were like on the butcher's table, like right there.
Yeah.
So you're cutting an uncooked but dead chicken or turkey, I mean?
Wait, what about it?
You cut it up like
Yeah,
this
you can
uncooked
cut it. Yeah, you don't have
dead
to.
thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was
Right.
gnarly. Yeah.
So
Nothing quite like
Sounds
killing an animal.
gruesome.
That's funny. It's funny because it's like after you do the act, there's responsibility that you have to take, right? Like after you do the killing, then it's like, okay, now we have to fucking clean it. We have to cut up all these parts. We have to, do all the things so that you can
I have to
actually
deep fry it and enjoy it.
it.
It's just as easy as abortion. Can we say that word here?
once you kill it, baby, you have to clean it. You have to put it in the freezer bags. I'm like, is that what you do afterwards?
I was just watching. I was just reading through this post, and I was reading it with Christine. And she's like, "Please stop reading this. This has been circulating around for this entire time that Roe v. Wade has been in the news." But
What?
it's like there's a picture. It's from The Handmaid's Tale. You know the women who wear these like
Mhm.
whatever, and then like one of them's got their fist up, which I don't get. I don't understand. Yeah,
BLM.
None of them are black. I don't understand.
it doesn't make sense.
Zero of them are black.
Maybe she wants to be fisted.
I fisted that turkey. Actually, we took some pictures of Mitch and me. I think on Katie's phone, and I've got like my fist up, and I'm like, "Hey, in honor of Gay Pride Month."
Was it in the Tom though? It had to be in.
It was right.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Okay.
extra.
Okay. Fair. But no, this post, it's like when you read it, it's just like all these situations where a person would like empathize with, oh, of course you wouldn't want to keep that baby, right? But it's all the situations, well, mostly the situations. There's like one or two situations in there where it's like, okay, but that's the only one that you can't elect to do, like as in having an abortion, right? And so the situations would be like this 11-year-old girl who was, taken advantage of by someone who she should have been able to trust, and her body is not ready to have a baby. Like, of course, she's not going to be having a baby. Like, you can definitely go to the hospital and like,
Yeah.
that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But like all the situations were like that. And then there's one or two that were like, and then the woman who sleeps with a man who turns out to be abusive, and she's finally worked up the courage to leave him, and she's pregnant with his baby. Like, well, she did sleep with him, and all of a sudden he's a monster. Like, wait a minute, hang on.
See, but
Like,
that's the part that right there. That's the real point.
Mhm.
That's why. I mean, obviously, it's controversial, right? I mean, it makes sense in certain contexts why you would not want people to have kids, but I would always be on the side of prevention.
Right.
That's the responsibility people don't want
Clearly.
to take,
Exactly.
right?
And it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like,
Here's the way that when I was talking with Christine about it, like when we first heard, I guess the decision, we were talking about it, and I was just like, oh, you know what abortion really is? It's just like being able to not take responsibility. You're aborting responsibility. That's it, right? Not taking responsibility for the acts that you've already done, and then also not taking responsibility for the future of what that could become, right? And so like the reason why people would be for abortion is because in their lives they're trying to abort everything, right? They're trying to like, oh, how do I not take responsibility for this and or that or whatever? It's the same points that we're always bringing up. But it's like the same point of like why you would want to believe in a God or heaven after you die.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Because you don't have to take responsibility. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Everything's going to be smoothed over. Like, oh, okay. I end up in heaven. Yay. Great. Cool. Okay. I didn't have to do anything. Right. It's like really, it's obviously abusive. It's abusive towards life and abusive towards like what you're here to do. You're not even taking responsibility for yourself, just in general, or the life around you. And that's why people don't trust themselves. That's why people are like depressed. That's why they have no purpose, no goals, none of that, because they're not looking at like what they're avoiding as far as responsibilities. They're trying to abort all their responsibilities. And obviously that comes from, the way that we're educated. Oh man. Oh, we had this pretty intense, well, I wouldn't say really intense. It was just more so like, it was a conversation that we had with someone. Oh, I just got a text. My couch is on its way.
So the couch texted me.
The couch texted me.
It's like, hey guys, I'm so excited to meet y'all.
It's those new smart. It's a
Not
smart
aborting
couch.
me.
The couch is like, yo, can I come over to your house and chill? Like we could just sit, on me.
What if you realize like last minute, you're like, oh, it's the wrong color and you just aborted it? You just like get there and just throw it right in the trash.
No.
We already tested it out. We already saw it.
Oh.
Yeah, we've already
Yeah.
laid down on it, both
Yeah.
of us, like hands up, all the way.
Hands up,
legs
don't shoot.
extended as far as we can. We were trying to be as tall as Mitch.
Is this
Yeah,
so like when
right.
the police do like a SWAT raid on your house? You're like, you can like,
You can still be
I'm
comfortable.
still laying down, but you're like, my hands are up.
You're like, God damn, this
Please
is the
don't
most
shoot.
comfortable raid I've ever been part of.
They're like, sir,
Yeah,
please lay on the ground. You're like, no problem. You're under arrest. Oh, I am under arrest. All right.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. No, this conversation that we had though was with a woman who, when we were talking with her, we just realized like she's not willing to take responsibility for it was like a mother and son, right? And like you could see there was clearly like a miscommunication going on, where she was just like dismissing it, really dismissive about it. And everything that was brought up, she would just like dismiss it, deny it, no. And it was interesting because like my mom and I were looking at the point and going like, that's where we were a few years ago, And my mom brought it up to her. She was like, you know what? Everything that's going on right here, I recognize this. Because for my mom, it's interesting. She'll always say this, but she's like, I didn't know that we had problems, my mom and I. That's what she says. Like from her perspective, everything was good until I started bringing up like, hey, like things are not right here. I don't like you, like all that stuff. And that was after I got techno-tutor and after like I could start to see, oh, okay, there is something that can be done about this. And it was happening already without me consciously trying to make that happen, but just by my use of the tools, where it was just like it became apparent to me. That's what's really cool about like the tools that we have, the network that we have, and actually applying yourself is, and this is also the reason why a lot of people don't want to take responsibility. And we've laid this out really clearly in other podcasts, but just to hit it again, the reason why so many people try to avoid responsibility is because they can only see so far. And then beyond this point, like they don't understand it. And then they're like, it's not in my hands. I can't do anything about it. Like, fuck it. Hopefully God will take care of it or something. I don't know. Right. And that's how most people are going about their lives.
Or also you're just told your whole life, God takes care of those things because you can't understand it. So they've never even been taught how to understand it or made
Exactly.
them understand it. And it's just like, yep, that's one of those God things, that he takes care of.
Exactly. And so it's really cool in this process, just the unfolding of like you use the tools consistently, you're applying yourself, and then like it becomes apparent the things that you weren't even expecting to make a difference in or expecting to take responsibility for, perhaps just becomes like, oh, I can also do this. Oh shit, I see the solution for that. And then like once you can see it, what's stopping you from just going and actually applying yourself and doing it? I'm one of those people who's like, oh, okay, I can see the solution. Obviously, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to be stupid and just fucking ignore it or deny it, right? And so it was cool to have that experience to like be from here, because I got techno tutor almost 5 years ago, not quite, but almost 5 years ago. And then I became a distributor like about a year later. And that's when I started actually like working on my mom, right? Like that whole time I could start to see, oh, okay, like actually this relationship could be better. And, I wasn't reacting as much that first year. And then like when I became a distributor, that's when I started like sharing with my mom, hey, you need to be doing this as well. And I could see for her how this would help her. And then like you guys could see in the self-perfected group, all the different videos that we made together, all the different posts and such, of just how our relationship was improving. And now I'm like working side by side with my mom on sharing this with other people, right? And now she has the opportunity to look back and see, oh, that's what was going on in our lives. That's what was happening, where she felt like being dismissive, like this mom was, where she was just like, oh, I was in denial like that because I couldn't see it. I thought everything was fine, because from my perspective, it was. I just thought you were quiet or, standoffish, sort of. And the whole time it was like, no, I had, all these thoughts, considerations of like how I was raised and who this person was that I was speaking to. And so it's cool looking back on that and also seeing where we are today and just how much we've grown. And plus the main reason why I was even looking at that relationship in the first place was so that I could have the relationship that I have now with Christine, which is like fucking fire. It's like, it's amazing. And
Fire.
it's pretty fire. It's pretty hot out here. It's pretty hot. We live in Florida. We got to make it very hot.
There's going to be a lot of friction once you get that couch. Jake's like,
yes. There's
Say less.
that is true. So yeah, I was sharing that because
they're called sectionals for a reason.
oh, Christine, are you taking notes?
We did get it. We did get it for its bed-like qualities. We got to chase. It's got to chase.
Oh.
Yes, and this sectional can be extended.
That's cool. I guess if you
isn't that great?
I don't understand, but okay.
So as our family grows, we can add more pieces.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's what I wanted to share on that. Just basically like, because people can't see that far, they lack the responsibility, but we have the tools of basically being able to see more than what you can see right now. Literally what people call expanding their radar screen,
The problem I see with all of like the abortion debate on both sides is like, well, actually, it kind of comes down to this one comment I saw recently. And the person said something like, we're not even like, there's so much focus on pre-life and we're not really taking care of like life, like people that are already alive. And that's like kind of one of the arguments on that side,
which is true.
But it is true, right? And that's what's not considered by the other side. It's like, because there's so much religion injected into it. And it's like, why is it being against abortion have anything to do with Jesus? Like, why do you have to invoke Jesus?
Well, imagine if Jesus was aborted.
Imagine that
wouldn't
Virgin Mary.
even
She's
have
like, how the
this-
fuck did I get
She
pregnant?
couldn't. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think she could have gotten unwanted pregnancy. Like, think about it. Like, I mean,
That is confusing.
I don't want to throw the word rape around casually.
Yeah, did she consent? to
Did Jesus?
getting
Did God? Did
pregnant?
Mary consent? I mean, I guess there
She
was that
didn't even
time
have
where the
sex.
angel said, "That's true."
She didn't even have sex, and
I
then
guess-
oh, now you're pregnant.
Abortion should be legal only in the cases where you had sex. So if I can find a sneaky way to impregnate the person, they should not be allowed to have an abortion because there was no consent involved.
Think about this. Think about this. She was told she's gonna have a baby in her sleep. If that's
Can
non-consensual,
you imagine the real like okay, just imagine this scenario, right? Mary's laying in her bed, right? And then like her head starts like pounding, and then it's like she's getting really hot, and like there's all these like weird noises, like and then she's like just like feeling like delirious, like she's like having a fever dream, and like this like giant ball of fire like comes into the room and it's like, Mary, you will have the Son of God. And she's like, what is happening right now? Oh my God. And then like the next day she like starts getting morning sickness and everything. And she's like, what is inside of me? And then like this angel comes and visits her again and is like, don't worry, you will fulfill the prophecy. I mean, that's kind of like the reality. And like, but the people on the religious side are like, no, all that's really cool. It was like gentle and nice. And she's just like, did God visit him? Anyways, but what I was going to say is the point about the pre-life versus the living and all that. Okay, that person who says that is like, you know, we're not focusing on the people who are alive. It's like, so what are you going to now do about it? Are you just going to be like, we should have abortions because we don't honor life that exists, so we should be able to have abortions? It's like, okay, but what are you actually going to do with your life now to solve the problem you're saying is the problem?
Right.
Like
Nothing.
it's right. So it's like, yeah, really what the person's doing is just defending this emotional bias that they have towards the idea of being able to choose what you do with your body.
It's that damn
guys,
theme again.
Tell me if I'm fucking wrong. Okay. Tell me right now if I'm wrong. The same people who are screaming abortion rights are the same people who were screaming wear the mask.
And
Yeah.
get a vaccine.
And the whole like rights of like transgender, you can choose how you feel, all that stuff.
But I'm saying specifically people who are like, you don't have a choice. You have to do
Oh,
it
right,
for
right.
everybody
That's
else is
funny.
good. It's
Right.
like, how is
But,
that
like,
the same logic?
The same. It's not the same. You can't put it in the same category.
This is the problem with
Because you could-
mathematics education in this country. People can't go, this is what we call an isomorphism. It's a different problem, but it's the same exact logical structure.
Right.
It's actually the same thing. It's not
Yeah.
actually different. Yes, context can be different.
That
and can
involves way
change
too
things.
much thinking. and
But it's
process.
just funny, like even the thing that Drake was sharing before about all these scenarios that this post was giving of like, oh, Susie like got raped or whatever, and now she has to carry the child of her, attacker and all this kind of stuff. Like there was certain scenarios where it's like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. But at the same time, 90% of all abortions are out of inconvenience. Like the statistics don't even
What
line
about
up.
LaShonda is like sleeping around on Friday nights, and
Right.
at the club, and
Instead of on the
Have an
self-reflective
abortion every
podcast,
month.
where she could find a real man who could actually support her, she's out at the damn club again.
You ever see those? You ever see those like judge whatever and like they bring in or Maury, right? And they bring in a woman and they're like, all right, LaShonda, this is your 15th time here. Are you sure this is the father? She's like, I'm certain it has to be him. There's nobody else. And then they're like, all right. In the case of little Timmy, Daquan, you are not the father. He's like, I knew it. She Anyway.
yes, and that's like the what do you call it? What do you call it when a customer has like the base, or not, a business has a base of their customers? It's like not the target market, but yeah, it's like whatever. You know what I mean? It's like,
Demographic.
yeah, it's like this is the people that are really
The niche.
it's like the base that's using this product. You know what I mean? Like they're throwing out all these
The
rant.
client avatar.
It's yes, exactly. That's the client
For
avatar.
Planned Parenthood.
I mean, it's everyone knows this, but it's the same shit. It's like it's the same mentality that's like we should just give people drugs, you know, and like make theft legal because then you'd be putting people in prison who are already targeted. I don't know, just all kinds of bullshit. It's like there's a practical point of, okay, we have to live in this world right now. Let's do what's practical right now. Like meaning, let's not leave your doors unlocked if you live in a city. Don't be retarded. Okay, but at the same time, let's change the system to stop poverty so that way people don't need to steal, and then you wouldn't have to do that. People are trying to live in the ideal world, and then it's all, the problem is you can't have any kind of rational conversation about any of it with people who are just going to stick to their emotional bias and be self-dishonest. So how are you ever going to have these two sides meet if one is like, no, but Jesus said so in the Bible? I'm like, I don't remember it said anything about abortion in the Bible. I don't remember that part. Jesus said like, blessed are the non-aborters. Like that didn't happen. What was this thing, man?
Maybe it was the part of the Bible where they said to commit genocide on the opposing nation. Maybe they meant you should abort the enemies as well.
Oh no, actually, I'm glad you said that. That's what I was trying to think of. I saw we were driving somewhere, Katie and I, and we saw this sign, and it was like a quote from the Bible. I don't remember what it was from, Isaiah or whatever, and it was like, I knew you and formed you in the womb, right? And it was like an anti-abortion thing. You see these all around here where we live. And like Katie looked it up, and it's like the next part after that, it's like maybe like a couple lines down, the same context. It's like, and then God vanquished the enemies of the whatever people. I don't remember the whole idea, whatever it was, but it was like this whole thing where he was like, and also right after that statement that was on the quote, it was like, you will be the prophet of whatever. Like he was talking to that prophet. Does that make sense? Like he was like saying, I knew you, I formed you, you were going to be my prophet. But they're taking it out of context and going, it's like, I knew you and formed you in the womb. Like he's talking to everybody. And then right after that, it's like, you will destroy the nations against God and all this stuff. And you're like, what about that part? Like that's abortion right there. That's like post, like
it sounds like God was just selling one person, like, you are special.
That's what it was, but that's actually what it is. And then they're taking it as like God is. I'm like, okay, hold on. Here's the thing. That's the only one they could find that's even close to trying to justify stopping abortions.
Right.
That was it.
Right.
There wasn't just an explicit one where God said, look, let's look at the practicality of abortion. This is why we shouldn't have abortion. This is why it doesn't make practical sense. Here's what we can do to prevent these situations. No, it's just like, I knew and formed you in the womb. And it's like some fucking thing from 7,000 years ago in some context that's translated 10 different times into different languages. It's nothing to do with what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then that's on a billboard. And then suddenly people are like, yep, he formed us in the womb. He knew us.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, he formed the abortion doctor too.
Why
Why didn't he just like not form that one person, the person who like invented abortions? Oh no, that was the devil right there. The devil did that.
Right. It's very convenient. It's interesting because not being able to have abortions. Well, first off, it's just not federal.
Let's just call it what it is. Not being able to murder babies.
It's just not federal. That's all it is. Like you can still do it in your state.
I know.
If your state promotes it, it's like all the people that want it too, they live in the states that they can get it. Like, oh, you live in California.
Do you know, like, I feel like you'd be the one person I know who would know this. Like, do you know what the point of Roe v. Wade actually was?
Do I know what Roe v. Wade was?
Like, what was the point? We always hear it, and I'm like, what is it actually? What was it saying? Because like people say like the "Don't Say Gay" bill, and you're like, it doesn't say anything like that in it.
Right.
So they're totally mis. So I'm wondering, like, what? Can you look it up? I'm sure Christine probably is. Like, what is Roe v. Watch it be like something totally different than what anybody has been fucking talking about, and it actually makes total fucking sense.
Weren't you saying, Drake, that was like the Supreme Court, like an old one or something against? You were explaining this to me the other day.
I know.
What is Roe v. Wade?
Is it like no state can?
Because it's like versus Roe versus Wade.
Laws? Is that what it is?
Okay,
Because aren't there already states that have outlawed it prior to that?
So legal pseudonym Jane Roe, 1969, became pregnant with her third child. wanted an abortion but lived in Texas, where abortion was illegal except when necessary to save the mother's life. Her attorneys filed a lawsuit on her behalf, and basically Texas abortions laws were unconstitutional. And then I guess they ruled in her favor, obviously. That was pretty much it. She was having her third baby, and she was like, I don't want to have a third baby. But she had to, because in Texas, they were like, we're not going to abort it.
And that baby grew up to be the justice of the Supreme Court. That was the final voice that overturned Roe v. Wade.
Exactly.
Thereby, in time, reversing the situation where he was never born. There's some sort of Supreme Court time loop.
That's it right there. So anyway,
but I don't understand. The part that's confusing to me is weren't there, prior to the Supreme Court apparently overturning this, weren't there already states like putting abortion laws in place, anti-abortion laws in place? So how is that occurring?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Texas and Florida were both doing something along the lines of like, oh, they were just saying that you couldn't abort after a certain period, after 15 weeks or something like that.
So you weren't allowed to have a law that was like, you just can't have one at all. They had to like find like, okay, you can't have one after a certain time period.
Right, exactly. So the interesting thing is, like, again, if you live in a very liberal state, like, you can still have an abortion. Nobody's stopping you from traveling to California to go get an abortion, right? But here's the thing that I was looking at is like, okay, overturning that law is not going to change society at all. You know, like whoever's like fighting for like, oh, we shouldn't be able to have abortions. Like, okay, what's the result going to be of that? Is it going to be that then all of a sudden people stop having as much sex? Or are you thinking like the liberal people who really, really wanted it, when they produce kids, they're not going to influence them in the same ways that they've been influencing their kids? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
You want more Democratic voters.
Right, exactly.
Good job.
Yeah.
Look what you got. Because all you did was make those states get a lot more people in them.
You know, previously, if we wanted more Democratic voters, we had to ship them in from Mexico. Okay.
Hey, now we're going to Mexico for our abortion.
Look what you did. Yeah. But I
Do you
mean,
think before the abortion, when you go to Mexico, like when you're in the waiting room, they give you chips and salsa?
100%.
A mariachi band.
Ring that baby out. Ay. Yeah. No,
Maybe. I don't
Jake's
know.
like, no, I don't think so. I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah.
Huh. So basically nothing has changed whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, that's I mean, look at the sides of the argument, or the what people actually want. What people actually want. Oh, okay. I was telling this story yesterday. I didn't get to finish.
Imagine Drake's couch arrived right now and we missed this moment.
Well, I was interrupted in this story yesterday, so the couch, it would be apropos. Anyway, I was telling this story because I was sharing this story with a student of mine, and like his response to it kind of blew my mind. But it was kind of expected, but at the same time, it was just like, it was like getting some cold water in the face, right? You know the story of the king, right? Lives in a far off land, who, like, he's a benevolent king. All his people love him. Like, he goes out into the streets. He makes sure that everyone's well taken care of. Everyone's working in harmony. Everyone's got their businesses and all that. That, like, he entertains people from who are passing by, who, you know, they tell him, hey, there's a drought coming. And then he prepares his people, hey, there's a drought coming. Make sure you stock up on grain. You know, and the people love him. They throw parades for him. They have parties for him. They meet with him in his court all the time. And just like, this is a good king. This guy takes care of us. He helps us to actually live and flourish, right? Well, one day, someone's passing through the land, and this is someone who looks up in the stars and, you know, makes determinations that way. And this guy says, King, there is a rain that is coming. And if one drop of this rain gets into the mouths of anybody, they will go mad. It will absolutely turn them mad. You have to prepare yourself. It happened in a nearby village. Everyone in that village is gone mad and the village is destroyed. They're dying now. And the king hears this and he's like, okay, well, best thing to do would be protect the water supply. So he tells his aides, he's like, hey, go protect the water supply. And his aides go and they protect his personal water supply in his domain. And he's like, no, you idiots. You need to go protect the main village water supply. I will drink from the village well. That's fine, right? But everybody needs to be protected. Well, they go out, they start making a shelter for the village well. And by the time they've got the shelter up, it's already too late. The rain's already started. A few drops have gotten into this well. And
Jake, are you about to sell us on getting vaccines?
Slowly.
This episode brought to you by Pfizer. Now approved for children 5 and under.
Yes. And get your booster.
And ignore all of the information coming out from the insurance companies about death rates being up.
Yeah.
Please ignore that. Please also ignore the Pfizer documents that have come out showing that we knew all of this was going to happen, and we still told you it was safe and effective, and you need to get it.
And please ignore the common sense that you cannot prove something is safe and effective after it just being a test trial for like less than a year.
Also, ignore just like your natural like questioning of things
And ignore your own immune system.
Yes, also ignore that. Ignore anything that's not Dr. Fauci. Just ignore it. Just ignore it. Or
that one book that says the real Dr. Anthony Fauci that Cameron has back there.
Well, you can ignore it because you can't read.
Ignore it. oh yeah, you can't read. Never mind. There's no book. There's no book. But okay.
So the rain comes. Yeah.
Slowly, everybody in the town starts going mad. And as they're going mad, they're like fighting with people in the streets. This never used to happen. They're burning down each other's businesses, each other's homes, all of this.
Hey, that sounds like Minneapolis.
Oh yeah. There you go. and the king goes into the town and he's like trying to reason with these people. It's like, what are you guys doing? Come on, guys, come on. We used to work in harmony. We used to love each other. Like we can stop this. There's something we can do about this. And he's seeking for an antidote to this problem, right? And more people, they get thirsty, they drink from the well, they become mad, and the town gets worse and worse and worse. And finally, people start saying, like, what's wrong with the king? Like he's going crazy. The townspeople are saying this. They're like, the townspeople are like, the king has gone mad. What's going on with it, right? And the king slowly gets locked up in his own home, and he hears rumors that the village is attempting to kill him, right? And the king has a decision to make. He can either continue to fight for the antidote, even though nobody will listen to him. Nobody's doing anything productive at all. Or he can go down to the village well and drink from the well and become mad just like all them, right? And so the king makes the decision to go down to the well and drink from it. And he too becomes mad. And the people rejoice and say, our king has returned, right? So I told this story to the student and I asked him, if you were that king, and these were your people, you loved them, right? And you saw them all going mad, but they all turned against you. If you had the antidote, or if you were looking for the antidote, would you fight to save them, or would you drink from the well? Do you know what he said? He said, I'm drinking from that well. I was like, really? Why do you say that? And this is the part that blew me away. He's like, because they're all mad. I would join them. I'd be mad too. It would be the new normal. I was like, whoa. Like those were the words he used.
Wow.
Did he comprehend what mad meant? Like mad, like crazy, not mad.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was like, but
Wow.
but they're literally killing each other. Like they're destroying each other.
It's like, but that would be normal now. So, and I must be normal.
Yeah. That's social shame, social pressure.
That's what kids are learning now.
Mhm.
Like you want to talk about like, oh, you know, how our society is learning things and everything. Like that's what society is learning. That's what everybody under the age of like 15 years old, that's what their understanding is of society now.
Damn.
Wow.
It's insane. It literally is insane like that. And so, I mean,
So now it's going to be a point of where anybody who dissents, like what everyone's doing, they're going to be like, that person's crazy. That's the conspiracy theorist. That's the crazy person. That's the Alex Jones. That's the whatever. It's like, don't listen to that person. They're insane. They're not normal. They're not just doing what everyone else is doing. If you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're normal. And now you've got the social media in place where it's like suddenly everyone's doing the TikToks. Okay, that's normal now. Just like the transgender stuff. That's what's normal. What do you mean you're talking about it doesn't make sense or whatever? Like you're crazy. So then you'll have the people who see that it's crazy, but they're like, you know what? I'm not going to try to stand out. I'm just going to go along with it. And I'm going to use your pronouns. I'm going to do all this and then you buy into it. And then you're like, you know, it kind of makes sense actually, because, you know, maybe they're blah, blah, blah. And then you're just like, but it's because people aren't willing to stand up and just be like, no, this isn't real.
and this is a point that Bernard had made in Creation's Journey to Life, that even the ones who are doing the brainwashing in turn get brainwashed as well, because then it becomes all about, oh yeah, all about myself and my life and my happiness and all this. And then like it started out as a way to like control and manipulate others, but then they got under the control and manipulation of it too, and like it takes over.
It's like everybody has become just the consumer. Even
Exactly.
the rich people who are the ones who are benefiting from it, they're still also just the consumer. It's same mindset, same mentality.
Right. And so like, obviously that's not acceptable, you know, but who's going to be the one to actually stand up? Like, is that really the life that you want? Like, oh no, I'll just like, I'll take the vaccine. I'll take the fucking well water, whatever it is. And like, because who are you in that decision? Who are you in that decision of like,
you know, imagine you go to,
okay,
imagine you
I'm just gonna
die,
join everybody else.
imagine you die, okay, and you go to heaven.
Yeah.
But it's literally hell. And they're like, no, look, it says heaven on the sign. And you're like, oh, and you're like, yeah, dude, that's it. And you're like, okay, I guess that's it. Like,
Right.
that's what you would do. It's like, yeah, it's just normal.
It's the new normal. Okay, this is heaven.
You don't get to decide because you didn't create it.
Right.
It's like, imagine, like, I always say this, like, you know, well, when I die, you know, my grandma's going to be there. It's like, well, what if her idea of heaven is not including you? What does she want to fucking be around? Maybe she's like, that little shit, ungrateful grandson I had. Do you know what I mean? Like, seriously, think about it.
That's hilarious.
Why is your idea of heaven is I'm going to see my grandma again? It's like, that's it. It's like, you didn't even want to be around her in the last like 5 years of her life anyways. She was just in a fucking old folks home.
Right. It's just some weird fucking guilt trip thing.
Yeah. And it's just like, you don't know how to deal with process the grief of like losing somebody that you cared about.
Yeah. You know, I see this a lot today. It's just like, it's exactly that. It's like going to hell and calling it heaven. That's literally what people are doing all the time. It's like, just slap a different name on it, because the name hell implies bad, like the way that people think of it. It's like, oh, that implies bad, and this implies good. So I can just change the way I feel about it by putting a good name on it.
Yeah, it's like I'm a demon living in hell, but I identify as an angel living in heaven. Right.
You know the word progress?
Yeah.
We all assume that's a good thing, right? But what about if you changed it to the word progress?
Yeah.
It's like, can you progress towards something that you don't want?
You can have cancer that's progressing.
It's progressing, right? So
Mhm.
people who are progressive, but they're actually, it's just, we're just progressing toward a system that has absolute total dictatorial control over every action of our life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, and for anyone listening, if you cannot process it, let me just fucking say it. The only group in the world that's standing up and doing any fucking thing about this to prevent this from happening is us right here in Self-Perfected, right? It's people who have TechnoTutor, really, because we can actually see it and we can now share the solution. Like I've been here in Jefferson for the past few days, me and my wife, Jessica, hanging out with the Copes, and it's been remarkable. I mean, you can see these kids. I know y'all were here recently. It's some next level shit. Max is like a full on like 12-year-old and he's 5.
Yeah.
Like full on, like the smartest 12-year-old I've ever met. And we're hanging out and we're building a robot together. We're making music together, and then we're just hanging out, having fun, goofing around. And then like the level that this,
Remember last night, Seneca? It was like
Yeah.
10 o'clock or whatever.
it was like 10:30, and she's showing us her ballet moves. And then she's explaining the detail of one of her moves. And she goes, oh, when she's like, this means disengage. And she's like doing this move with her leg. She's like, yeah, disengage means when you move your leg in this way or something specific.
Well, because I say, can you do dégagé? And she goes, yes, dégagé. And then she does it. And she goes, it means disengage. It's when you lift your foot off of the floor. That's what it means to disengage.
Yeah.
Right? And she's 3.
Just,
that's so cool.
yeah, like so matter of fact.
Yeah.
Right. And the, just like the regard that they have just for life and just being together and having fun is so amazing. And that's what is possible for every kid if we step up, because it's not just going to fucking happen. There's no mandate that's going to go into place or no amount of force that any government or group can have that can make that become normal. It's going to be on us selling people on it and showing how it's actually the best way. And it's best for everyone. You have the best feelings, you have the best thoughts, you have the best, everything comes from it. It's like, this is fun. Like, this is so much fun. And it doesn't mean like we're just now goofing around the whole time. It's like we're still having real conversations, real support, like really talking through like what we're working through within ourselves, our past limitations, our past bullshit that we've accepted. But then you can work through that shit so fast when you have TechnoTutor. And that's like amazing. But kind of like to your point with your story, Drake, is if we don't fucking stand up more and go out even more, it's going to be like all the fucking crazy villagers. They're going to be like, I don't care that you have your kids and they're smart, and I don't care that you have common sense. We're fucking mad.
Yeah, dude, they'll be like, they'll find some reason to say why your kid being smart at that age is bad.
Yeah, it's like abuse.
People already say that to us, like,
Right.
oh, he shouldn't be reading that early. And it's like, what?
It's like, how retarded can you be?
And I can understand if you have a 5-year-old who can't read, can't process information, who's literally not even as let's just say academically from that perspective, like advanced as even our 3-year-old is. Like, they can't read, they can't do anything. I can imagine why having that kid at home all day would be like really fucking hard.
Oh yeah.
Because you can't even be like, hey, why don't you just go focus on something that you want to do? Like with the kids, like last night we were doing when we were doing the slaughtering, the kids were out under like the well house, like painting. I can't like, we went to go get something and came back, and Max and Seneca were just like covered in, like it's like washable paint, but it's like, they're like covered in paint. Right. So it's like they can do stuff like that while we're doing something else, for example. Right.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah. And they're just like, they're learning to direct themselves so well. It's awesome. And like Seneca, I don't even remember how many books she had me read to her, but it's like, we'll just be hanging out. She'd be like, let's read a book. I'm like, okay, sure. Go find a book. And it was like one after another, after another, after another. Like when I was a kid, the only thing I could focus on for that amount of time was a movie or a video game. That was it.
Yeah.
And she's like, one book. She's like, let's read another and another. I'm like, sure. This is fun, whatever. And then the whole time throughout the book, she's like asking me questions like, why did they say that? Or I'll ask her a certain word and she'll either know what it is or she'll ask me for clarification.
So that reminds me, like, so as far as standards here, I'm getting to know a lot of like a lot more of the details of the standards of what they expect from children when they're 4 and 5 years old here in the state of Florida. And one of the things that they want is for they're trying to encourage parents to like ask their kids questions when they read the books to them, right? But it's so cool, like you're saying, you know, when you read a book with Seneca, who's 3 years old, right?
Dude,
She's
Seneca
asking
can
you.
spell. Seneca can spell.
I know. I
Like
know.
you, like I mean, we did it when they were here too, right? It's like you can ask her certain words and she'll just spell it. I'm like, damn, dude, that's so we started looking up like when should kids be able to spell words like that?
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, at 5, they'll be able to start recognizing some letters in their name. And then at 6, and then at 7, and then at 8, they start to decode letter patterns of like, you know, combinations. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was like
It's
7
like trying to push it
9.
out to like 9 years old. I'm like,
Yeah.
holy shit, man.
Yeah.
That's insane.
But and so again, like someone might be hearing this, they're like, oh wow, that's so great for Cameron's kids or whatever. But it's like, that's what your kids gotta
But
be
the thing
like.
is, we're not teaching them to do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're just integrating it in TechnoTutor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
the
you
natural way of
download
doing
information
it.
on your computer. Did you teach that to your computer? Imagine trying to teach information to your computer versus you just put the USB in and download it. That's the difference between the school system and that approach to learning versus what we do.
Right.
It's like literally when I say she can spell these words, we didn't practice spelling the word. She
Right.
integrated in TechnoTutor. I just know, hey, she's done this word in TechnoTutor. Hey, Seneca, can you spell this word? And then she'll spell it out loud from memory, like not even looking at it, nothing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then last night, remember we made that picture frame,
Mhm.
and then Max was in there work with us. And so like Mitch was like, hey, why don't we all sign our names on it? And then like Max, like, so Mitch writes his name, and then Max starts writing his name, and he writes the M, right? And then he doesn't lift up his pencil or his pen. And he goes up and does the A, and he comes back up, goes across, and then comes back down, then goes up like this, and then back halfway through, and then does the X because he wanted to write it in cursive.
Mhm.
But he just didn't, he was like making them all connect. You know what I mean? It's just so cool to watch that. I mean, I couldn't do anything like that when I was 5.
Yeah. Yeah. And like
Pretty cool.
I'm working on just getting this crowd. Like I talked to tons of people, especially guys, just in a typical week, like tons and tons of guys. And like most guys, especially our age, roughly, right? It's like they like the idea of wanting to have kids. They're like, yeah, I'll have kids one day. You know, yeah, of course I want to have family someday. But like, there's this waiting within them. And like, I get it because before I saw TechnoTutor, I had that too. So I was like, yeah, I want to have kids one day, but like, I don't have all the fucking money I want to have. Like, I want to be able to provide a great life for my family. Then I remember when I met Drake, Cameron, you know, a lot of the guys in Denver years ago when I first saw TechnoTutor. And I remember I was like, because I had a conversation with Max. Asif introduced me to Max, and we were chatting. And we were like, he's like talking about engines in a car. And he's like 2.5. I'm like, this is fucking crazy. So I went up to Cameron and I was like, Cam, like, I want to have kids one day. Like, I want this for my kids. Like, this makes sense. He's like, you want to have kids one day? It's like, yeah. He's like, okay, that starts now.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't start when your girlfriend gets pregnant, or your wife gets pregnant, whatever. Like, it starts today, because all of your fucked up shit is going to get passed on to your kids through your genetics and through your back chat and just that transfer. And that is what I just want to highlight here is like, everyone listening to this, you're still accepting such a low version of yourself, even if you're already financially free, or even if you already have kids or whatever, you're still accepting so much bullshit limitation because you're not standing up. You're not speaking out as much as you could. And so that is what's going to get passed on as weakness to your children. And so the process starts now, the process today, and make this week your best week yet, where you can talk to the most amount of people you've talked to this week. You can sell the most amount of families this week. Get more people on the Friday night hangout, right? Share this podcast with more people. It's like, that's what's required. Because guess who's not fucking slowing down? Fauci, Bill Gates, Justin Trudeau, all these fuckers that are currently manipulating the masses through poisoning the well water. They're not fucking slowing down. And so why are you letting yourself go at fucking, 2 out of 10?
See, and what people don't realize too is someday I'll have kids. That's the new normal. Like, and it's not about because it was in the past, it was better. It's just in the past as a man, You're like, okay, I'm 20 years old, time to start my family and get a job.
Mhm.
Of course, we're not suggesting go get a job, but the point is like the drive to just have kids and to have a family, that should be normal.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't you want that? Well, if you don't like yourself and you can't even deal with your own shit, like you can't even deal with your own ability just to be content at a baseline with your life and your decisions. So it's like, that's, you think that, oh, when I have kids, it's going to interfere with my happiness. This is why the abortion point is so popular. That's why I push back on it. Because like, yes, if like the 11-year-old example, or the case where you have 5 kids and you're trying to deal with all that and you like, okay, it doesn't make sense to have another kid. Like, I'm not gonna participate in the religious bullshit of, oh, life is sacred. It's like, dude, we just fucking murdered 2 turkeys yesterday. And like, you can put it any way you want and try to change it, to reframe it and everything. But I mean, did you feel any different other than you were just murdering them?
Yeah, I was like, I just better do this efficiently.
But what I'm saying is, yeah, it's like, you're like, I'm murdering these animals. Like,
oh yeah, there's no
I'm
doubt
killing
about
them,
it. There's
okay?
no like, yeah,
like
no other way
it's
to
not
look at it.
pretend like, oh no, but they're animals. It's like, it's what it is. Okay. So why did I bring that up?
Life is sacred, not
Oh,
participating.
yeah. Thank you. Like, meaning like, let's just not go into this bullshit of all life is sacred. So we shouldn't kill babies. And it's like, okay, that doesn't mean we should just let everyone do abortions all the time. But we're not getting to the root points. Think about the person who wants to have an abortion. Do they actually even understand how their own mind works?
Fuck no.
They believe if I have a kid, it's going to interfere with my happiness because now I can't go out to the club and fuck some guys and party and do all that stuff. But what they don't realize is, whether they realize it or not, that drive to have children is what's driving them to do that. They're not understanding it. And I'm not saying having a kid makes you happy, because there's tons of people who have kids and they're not happy, but it's a part of being happy. If you're fucked up in your head and you have kids, you're not going to be happy with or without kids.
Right.
But when you are stabilizing yourself and you understand your emotions and your thoughts and you have principles, it becomes logical to like, why wouldn't I want to replicate myself and then educate my children and they could become even better than me? Also, because we've supported the system to develop to support them more.
Yeah.
It's like, how much better would it have been when you guys come here if you already had a 3 and a 5-year-old?
Yeah, it'd be fucking
they were playing
so
together
amazing
and doing crazy stuff
Like,
because they were just as advanced.
that sounds so fun.
You know?
And of course, there's going to be a set of challenges too, right? Like I see Max when he's like, for example, this morning we were telling him we're going to come here, and then after this we're going to brunch. And Max is like, well, what if I just don't let you leave? Because he wants to hang out with us.
Mhm.
And so it's so fun to see how Max is. He's very, very persuasive.
And he's
like
like,
he gets even more persuasive now.
Does he care about your rejection?
Not at all.
So he cares more about, I'm not getting to do the thing I want to do. I don't care about the
Yeah.
fact that you're saying no. There's no emotional attachment to that.
Yeah. And then I just saw how Cameron and Katie like handle it and explain to him. And it's the coolest thing, because when I was a kid, if I would have tried to do something like that, there would have just been like, no, like you can't do that. We're doing this, blah, blah, blah. No explanation. And over time, then that desire, that drive within you gets suppressed. It's like you have this like burning tenacity to just like get what you want out of life as a
Right.
kid, and it just gets beat the fuck out of you. What's so cool is with Cameron and Katie, they have the patience and they understand how their own mind works and their own frustrations and stuff to be willing to let that like spark within Max stay at full level, but then support him to direct it. And then, yeah, man, it's the best thing. And then now we need a fucking army of kids like this. Otherwise, what the fuck? We're gonna have armies of these fucking drones
Or like
going
the
to
Communist
Ukraine and
Chinese
Russia?
Party's army,
Right.
200 million. It was
Right.
predicted in Revelation, guys. The beast, you know,
Oh yeah,
Um,
I forgot. It's the beast.
right? The video on the Jesus guy.
Mark of the beast.
But what I was gonna say also is just think about the average person who's like doesn't like themselves, doesn't like their life, is not emotionally stable, and then now they're pregnant.
Right.
They're like, there's no fucking way I want to have a child right now, and like I can empathize with where they're at.
Yeah.
So whether we have, like you said, whether we have abortions or not, and it's legal or not, nothing changes.
Right.
Because then, okay, let's say we don't have abortions anymore. So who are all the people who are so like, yes, we won, fuck the progressives and the leftists and the baby killers and all that. We won. It's like, okay, now are you going to take the responsibility to educating all of their children as they're being born now? Because guess
Fuck
what's
no.
going to happen? They're all going to be transgender.
Right, they're gonna join the woke
All
mob.
you did was just guarantee that there's going to be 10 million more transgender people than, you know, in 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
That's all you've done is guaranteed that.
Right. People are so damn
Because where are they
short-sighted.
going to go to get their abortions? Think about it. Like, no one thinks it through. And so,
Except us.
yeah.
The only place in the world where we think it through.
So imagine though, what my point is if you start, and I know because this has been my process. Like I mean, I can't really say where I would have been at mentally if I had never come across Bernard and Destiny, because I was living in Portland.
Ooh.
Like doing
You'd have been
drugs.
in Antifa.
I mean, it's like part of me wants to say like, yeah, no, I probably wouldn't have done that, but it's like, dude, I don't know, because I was so fucked up mentally and emotionally. Who knows?
Brian likes smoking weed and
At the
shit.
same time, I was directing myself to try to look for a solution. So it wouldn't have happened because the reason why I'm here is not because Destiny came in and magically changed me. I
Yeah.
was wanting to change.
Yeah.
So it's not like where would I, but I'm just saying, let's say I never was directing myself within that. Okay.
I was just thinking of that Gavin video where he's like,
Gavin McInnes?
yeah, the guy on TikTok is like, hi, I don't know what I am.
Oh yeah. Where it's like, where they're sitting with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he's like, my gender is to be determined. And it's like, and like, I love the commentary on that video where they're just like, wow, you can see the moment where he's just like, he's a destroyed man,
Yeah.
you know? And he's like,
Damn.
ha, wow. And it's like, I don't know. And it's like, how are you that fucking confused, dude?
Yeah.
And she's like,
That's
what was it he said?
Too
She's
bad.
like, you don't know your gender? Like the woman in the background. Right? And she's like cackling. It's like, fuck, dude. It is insane.
That would have been you.
That probably would have been me. Like, it would have been like, what's the bandwagon I can get onto? And the confuse, you know, because I was searching.
Right.
So, I understand, like, I've been at the point where I have the existential crisis. And this is the problem when you are, quote, smart in the system and you question things and you are aware of your dissatisfaction with life and you don't want to just go be a cog in the wheel, but you're like, well, what else is there? And I think that thing that I experienced, that kind of break with reality of like, okay, I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. I see the dissatisfaction. I want to solve it. I think that Gen Z is experiencing that very deeply because they're like, let me put it this way. Back when I was in college, getting a job and having a career still seemed like a viable option. I just didn't want to do it. But I think most people my age at that time were like, yeah, you just do that. And if I had stayed at the university I was at and gone through it and just got a job, I would have had a good job, at least maybe temporarily. But now children are growing up in a world where they know that's not real. Like they're thinking I'll become an influencer or something. Like that's what they're thinking. There's no, and I mean, think about it. Even if you were like, I want to become a scientist, that's, everyone knows that's not a real thing. You just go work for Pfizer and just do what they tell you and say what they tell you to say. Do you know what I mean? There is no, because imagine like you're a child right now and you're like, no, I want to be a real scientist who does real science. And then you're looking around at the world going, yeah, but any scientist who fucking even says anything that's close to reality and challenges any of the new normal crazy bullshit, like the well water, they get totally fucked. So
Yeah.
why would I ever want to do that? So even the idea of being a scientist, it just goes into the new normal. If you want to be a scientist, you got to drink the well water. If you want to be a motivational speaker, imagine you want to be a motivational speaker today or an entrepreneur. Okay, I'm going to start a company. Yes, but I have to like hire so many transgender people and I have to like, everyone has to use the pronouns. Like you can't be like, I'm going to be a famous, like you can't be, imagine Steve Jobs. And then they're like, okay, Steve, you know, on this presentation, we got to start with your pronouns. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
Do you know, or Bill Gates or somebody, you know what I mean? Like starting off,
Inclusivity,
they
shit
would have
like
been
that.
like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
And that person would have been immediately canceled,
yeah.
you know? So I think I can understand where a person's coming from, where they cannot see any point within themselves. There's not even any hope at all. And obviously we know hope is fucked, but there's not even that. There's just like total, just might as well just live in the moment, I guess, and smoke weed and, you know, just kind of do whatever. And
Video
then,
games, metaverse comes along, right?
well,
That's
going to
seductive.
be the new normal.
Yeah.
That's going to be the point where everyone's doing that. Let's just do that. But can you imagine, like, have you ever played video games for 5 days straight and just like smoked weed all day, played video games all day for like 5 days straight, and then at the end of that felt really great about life?
No, it gets really tedious actually.
Like, is it fun in the moment? Sure. But after, yeah, it gets tedious, isn't it? It's like, oh, I got to get another hit, or I got to keep going. It's like, because you're just escaping reality.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where you're like, this isn't real. And then you just feel depressed because you've depressed your body. You've actually not treated it properly. You start to become like feeling bad. And then you feel like the only way to not feel that bad is to go do the games, drink, the porn, the drugs, all that stuff to escape that consequence you've created for yourself. I've been there. I know what that's like.
I saw a quote recently, and it was like, for anyone who says they want to kill themselves, go throw yourself in the middle of the sea, right? And you'll quickly find out you don't actually want to die. You will fight for your life, right? And what you find out is you don't want to kill yourself. You want to kill something inside of you, right?
Interesting.
I just started reading another, because I finished that last Philip K. Dick book I was reading.
Yeah.
What was it?
Flow of My Tears.
Flow of My Tears, right? So then now I just started reading Valis. I think that's how you pronounce it, Valis. And I'm at the very beginning of it. But in the beginning, it's like the main character, he's like, this was the day that he had his nervous breakdown. And it's like this woman, his friend, who I don't know if it's like he's in love with her, but he loves her. Like he really likes her. Okay. This girl like calls him and is like, hey, can I get 10 of these particular pills from you? And she's like, I've already got 50, but I need 10 more. He's like, why do you want them? She's like, oh, I'm going to kill myself. And he's like, yeah, I've got some, come over, even though he doesn't have any. He's like thinking maybe I can help her and talk her out of it or whatever. And it's really interesting the way he describes it, because he's like, she says to him, like, the way she talks about killing herself is so matter of fact. And it's like, he says that precipitates this guy's nervous breakdown, because he has to come face to face with the fact that this person is just totally fine with killing themselves. And what's interesting is his thought process in the book is like, okay, she's going to come meet me to get these pills. That's a 3-hour drive. She's going to drive 3 hours just to come get these pills. Like, why doesn't she just fucking drive off a cliff? Why doesn't she just like crash her car on the way here? But it's like that point you brought up. It's like, she doesn't actually want to die.
Wow.
She's like, let me just take these pills and then it's like too late. It'll just do it and so forth. Right. So he was like addressing that book, and I don't know when he wrote this, maybe the 80s or something, I'm guessing, or 90s, I don't know. But it's like that if the consequence wasn't created through the system, through education, through parenting, and so forth, why would anyone want to kill themselves?
Right.
And so
it's the same point. The reason why I brought it up is because it's the same point that you brought up as far as like, you're playing video games all day, you're getting high, like you're trying to avoid that thing. That's the same thing you're trying to avoid. It's the same, like, it just, for those who get to that far, like that becomes so big that it seems to encompass or like push out any of them, within themselves. Like it takes up all the space, so to speak, within themselves, where it just becomes like all they can think of and see is this point of like trying to escape this within them. And this can be described as like you not actually living, you not actually taking responsibility, you not being here, not directing yourself, you like just going along with the system. That's not what anybody wants. It's not, but
that's what everyone's being trained to do. Like that story you told.
Exactly.
But that is what creates the inner like misery and suffering. And so what's fascinating is, and this is what I've always said, is, okay, you can affirm every child's gender all you want. It's going to make the suicide rates higher.
Yeah.
Why? Because all you did was cover up the point and think that you solved the problem. But in reality, you just participated in the thing that's driving the inner conflict in the first place. You address the symptom. It's the same thing virtually every approach in medicine generally takes, which is let's cover up the symptoms.
Yeah.
But you didn't solve the problem. So what happens? It comes out later as some like fucking skin issue or some liver problem, which then you cover that up and then it becomes cancer later, because it's just your body going, no, I need to get rid of this toxin or whatever it is, and you're not doing that. You're just covering up the fact that you feel bad from this presence of this thing. So I'm going to make it worse. I'm going to amplify the point until it kills you.
And the ultimate toxin for anyone who is not aware is your fucking mind. It's your ego. It's your mind is not calibrated to do what's best for all. It's not calibrated to do what's best for all life. And so that little bit within you that turns into a major all-consuming thing, which would be why you'd want to kill yourself or think you're a different gender or whatever, is that's you being out of touch with reality. You got this inner conflict and friction that just builds and builds and builds when you're not being self-honest and you're not just dealing with what's here and directing yourself to the best possible outcome. Now, I know a lot of people probably don't know what's best, but guess what? You're tuned into the Self-Perfected podcast. You can fucking join us and we'll show you the way. It's not that hard. It's really not. But it requires you to, in those moments where you say, I could reach out, but I don't want to. Or, I know that every Friday they have that hangout and I could come on because it's always really entertaining and fun and I can meet cool people, but I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to make some bullshit excuse.
Yeah.
Those are those moments where you see who you really are. Are you the kind of person who's going to actually start giving of yourself and start giving and creating a better world? Or are you the kind of person who's going to give in to your bullshit?
That's the key right there. You said is the person who's giving. Like, it's like when, for example, people come to visit us, I don't look at what can I get out of it. I'm like, what does this person need support with? You know, and I may not know right away. It's not like I have so much insight that I could just know. It's just like, whatever it is, I'm going to be there to support. And when I hear that thing, that's their limitation. Let's say I can point it out, or I can say something. Maybe they're asking me a question or whatever. But then also it's just like, let's just have fun and hang out. But then I know it's not about me. It's like, what does this person need from me? And if everyone operated like that, everybody would be getting what they need. So it's like, the problem with the abortion debate is it's not about, okay, what do we actually need as a society? It's about what do I want? What do I want to get? It's my body. It's my choice. It's for me to decide what to do with my body. And it's like, but have you ever thought about what are you here to give? And the whole problem with the destruction of that image of the 50s housewife, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, should it be like a woman is forced to be at home? Clearly not. Any more than a man should be forced to go fucking get a job and work his whole life at a factory just to provide for his family. But when a woman, let's just talk about that, is stable emotionally and is well educated and skilled, they're like, man, I can make amazing sourdough bread. I can make homemade pasta. I can make our home beautiful. I can create a 5-acre garden. I can do all these things. Like,
raise genius kids.
I can support my kids to be
world.
really stable and effective and smart and have purpose and like know how to cooperate with each other. And like, why wouldn't you want that? So going back to what I was saying earlier, it's like, if you were stable inside and not participating in depression or being depressed or all these negative things, if you were actually stable and you're like, what am I here to give? Why wouldn't you want to have kids? Now, that's not talking about the extenuating circumstances. But the problem is we use the extenuating circumstances to justify the 90% that is actually just the person not getting the support from the very beginning, having a consequence of having a kid, and then out of fear being like, I don't want to deal with this. Let me just have the abortion. And the problem with that is, even if you have the abortion, it doesn't solve the problem. The person still, because if you were really stable and there wasn't a practical circumstance as to why you shouldn't have the child, like if you're going to have a child and then you do some genetic testing and, you know, they're not already well developed in the womb, let's just say, it's like, it's a point where it makes sense to do it. And they're going to have some extremely difficult, like imagine they have a condition where as soon as they come out, their skin starts rotting. And you have to every 15 minutes apply ointment to their skin for their entire life. And they just sit in agony their whole life. Would it make sense for that person to be alive? Would you want to be that person?
No,
I wouldn't. So we can talk about extenuating circumstances, but that's not the same as the person who is just depressed and they go out drinking all the time and then they are fucking random people and then they get pregnant or they get someone pregnant and then it's like, we need to get rid of this kid. That's a totally different thing, because why are you even engaging in all that behavior? That's all empty stuff. Yep. And you're thinking, well, it's going to prevent me from doing the things I want to do. but the things you're wanting to do are they're not things you actually want to do.
Yeah.
You're just
If
controlled.
you're drinking alcohol, you're still fucking hiding. Oh my gosh. I know some people in this group still occasionally, you still have that thought within yourself. Once a year, well, just when I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
How much
like-
have you seen us drink since we've been here?
I've seen us drink a lot of ginger ale.
We have ginger ale. We're making our own homemade the ladies
Ooh.
made, Katie and Jess made, what was it?
Watermelon juice that's like fermented.
It's like
or something.
watermelon
It's
soda?
like watermelon, yeah, kombucha something. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
kind of like
It was
basically
great.
kombucha.
It
Yeah.
was very good.
It was good.
So-
That's the only thing that we drink.
You know, it's like if you go to a
Okay.
party, why do you need to drink alcohol?
It
Yeah.
it makes you dumb. Like I don't
you
want
feel
to
your-
drink alcohol.
Yeah, don't you feel yourself like starting to just like get kind of what's the word, self-conscious about what you're saying and talking, because you know it's like not necessarily making sense, or you're saying too much or whatever. Don't you want to be in direction over yourself? Like, why? I mean, I've been there too.
Yeah.
It's like, because again, you're trying to escape something. It's like, oh, I have to go to this party and now I have to be anxious. And it's like, why don't you just go and enjoy yourself if you're going to be there? If you don't want to be there, don't be there. Like, what
And
the fuck?
realize too, like when you go and you push yourself outside your comfort zone, even a little bit, you're like always glad you did it. Like there's never a time where I go push through my comfort zone, do something. Sure, I'm anxious, nervous, whatever. Then you do it. And then afterwards, I'm like, God damn, I'm glad I did that. Like that was really great.
How many times have you ever gotten really drunk and then made decisions and been like, those were great decisions?
Zero times.
Can you imagine Bill Gates like, oh, I need to make some investments. Let me get drunk first. Make sure I do a good
Yeah.
job of my investments. Like,
Yeah,
what
I
are you
don't want to
talking
be
about?
anxious when I'm making these big decisions.
But if your purpose is to go to your job and then on the weekend get drunk, you're escaping. You're
Right.
escaping reality and you're
Right.
escaping consequence.
And you don't have to, because the cool thing is what we can show people how to do is go from being that person who's a system slave, whatever you want to call it, and then walk that process to becoming really fucking effective and awesome. Like we see it time and time again. And we're not making this up. It's not some theory. It's like we have proof. And you can talk to these people, like reach out in the group. We're not fucking strangers.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. Like kill that avoider that's inside you. Kill the thing that says go along with the system of how it is. Kill the thing that's like you.
Hold on. Let's not
taking-
use the word kill, Drake. Let's just call it what it is. Abortion.
Yeah.
abort.
That part of you.
Yeah.
Abort that baby inside of you. That's your little baby ego.
Like really think about this. That was so interesting how you said that, Drake, of for someone who wants to kill themselves, whatever. If you were to jump in the ocean, you'll see very quickly. It's like just
You're not just gonna sit there and be like,
yeah, you're like, oh, I'm gonna maybe if you're drunk you would, but it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it's like channel that. Like just look at it for your fucking self and see the obviousness of if you fell in the fucking ocean, you'd fucking swim. Just channel that right now. It's not that hard.
Yeah, imagine that the depression and all the feelings of wanting to kill yourself is the ocean you're drowning in right now.
Yeah.
And start thrashing and start being like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going
Right.
to take back power over my life. And I can. And Jake's,
You'd fucking swim unless you're black. Let's just be clear.
he's messaging us funny jokes, but he's like, can I say it? Drake, you're allowed to say whatever you want.
I know I have privilege. Yeah. I have no privilege. You guys have all the privilege.
Yes.
Dirty. Well,
It's my body. It's my
Anyway,
choice. I can say whatever I
no,
want.
Yeah, I identify as not having privilege.
you don't get to identify as anything
Oh,
unless we say so.
unless I first identify as being a woman, and then
Exactly.
Oh, well,
And then
yeah.
you can identify as
You know,
whatever
we
you
talked
want.
about. I brought up Steve Jobs earlier. Like he was way fucking ahead of his time.
Mm.
Like seriously. Like think about the iPhone. Like he called it the iPod, the iPhone. Like he fucking
Genius.
conceived way ahead of time
yeah,
the trends of
Consumerism.
like the focus on themselves,
Yeah.
and the I and the ego and all of that. That's why it's called Destiny I process.
Mm.
It's like that's the part you have to face. But I want you to finish that point you were making, Drake, about finding that point.
Oh
Killing.
yeah. No, it's basically like I like the way you said it, like abort it, right? Like most people, they go to an abortion clinic to abort the things that they don't want, right? We're the clinic, right? We can make that happen. But we're talking about your ego. We're talking about that thing that you're just going along with the new normal, going along with society, going along with like trying to avoid basically taking responsibility and directing yourself. That's the big point. Directing yourself to do what's best, directing yourself to actually make decisions based on what actually makes sense, which people can't do right now because they're making decisions based on how they feel and based on the information that they have, which is what we were saying at the very beginning, as far as like, you can only see this far. You need to expand what you can see. You need to expand what you're able to look at. And that happens when you're doing this process. That's the point of doing this process, is expanding what you're looking at, expanding what you're able to see, and being able to go further and go, oh, that's the solution. If you're the kind of person who's like me, where you can see the solution and you just do it, instead of like, oh, well, no, I see that would be the best solution, but I'm just going to avoid it. If you're the kind of person who's just avoiding it, you're fucked.
Your ego is aborting you, the real you. That's life.
There you go.
Your
You ever
ego
hear that
Working on
story?
you, trying to fucking kill you.
You ever hear that story? Like, there's two wolves inside of you.
Yeah.
Right? There's two wolves inside of you because you're dead. They're eating at your fucking.
I'm like, that's why I have such abdominal pain every fucking night. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense, man.
Like, but it's really either like you're saying, are you life or are you ego? Are you your ego? Like, are you meaning? If you're the kind of person who's just going to say, all right, I'm just going to drink the well water and go along with this, who are you then? You don't make decisions for yourselves. You don't get to like fucking say, oh, this is what I like, this is what I want to do. You're just going to go along with what everybody else wants.
And then to
like,
also argue that you have rights and like
You
people
don't
can't tell you
exist.
what to do and like you should be able to choose. And it's like, but you're literally just fucking going with the herd.
you're not real. You're not real. And here's the really interesting thing, right? Here's the really interesting thing. Why people are afraid of like, people are afraid of dying and they want to go to heaven, right? Or they want something to be nice left for them. Like, what happens after I die? What happens after I die, right? The reality is you, because you went along with everything here, didn't fucking exist. You weren't real. So
Never
that doesn't
succeeded.
continue.
Yeah.
How can you possibly exist? You don't exist. You're not real. You're just like, oh no, but like, that person made me feel this way, so I went along with this and I did that, and like,
Yeah, there's no reality to anything within you that is a real thing that stands for something that actually makes decisions. It's like you are literally just a program. So when I turn off my computer, there's nothing on the screen anymore. It's gone. It doesn't exist. You didn't create yourself here as life. And when you study destiny and you study what Bernard was explaining, this is the essence of what it's talking about. Like if you're desiring to have an afterlife, we're actually showing this is the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a promise of if you have good behavior, it's about creating yourself as life, because life is the only thing that exists eternally. That's it. It's that principle. And if you don't create yourself as that, which means you would act as life in any situation, in any context all the time, as a matter of just principle of who you are. It's like, it's not even a choice anymore because you've already made that choice and you've already automated it. Then why would you exist anymore?
yeah.
Because you're just a program. You're literally just going with the flow. When the flow changes, you don't exist. Because you know what I mean? Like there was nothing real there.
Yeah.
So when we talk about like, we know what happens when you die, it's obvious. You can work it out. It's not, you don't have to believe. It's not a belief. It's like an obvious point. People just can't process that point of, oh, I'm just everything of who I am is based on the information that exists in the context of the reality I'm currently in. There's no part of me that exists independent of that because I've made a decision to only give life to the points and existence to the points that serve the context that's here. So when that context changes and that information is no longer present, it's like, for example, someone's like, well, my grandma's, she's in heaven, right? And it's like, your grandma was raised by parents. She had an education. She had maybe she had a job or a certain thing she did in life, certain hobbies, interests, and so forth. That all of that was based on the context of the environment she was in on earth. Her personality, everything Everything you know about her, as you perceive her as a person, was based on the context of being alive on this earth. So when you're not on this earth anymore, in that context anymore, it's like, can you imagine somebody goes to heaven, right? Somebody who you knew in life, and you know those people who are like super obsessed with football, right? Like, what's a football team like when the Vikings, right? And they're just like, that's all they talk about, right? They go to heaven, right? Are they still going to be interested in the Vikings?
You're like, bro,
Like, I'm gonna meet all the Vikings players who died, man.
Right. So let's take the context of Vikings isn't a thing. It doesn't exist in that context of reality anymore whatsoever. Okay, so remove that from their personality. Okay. Now find all the points of their personality that are like that are in some way tied to the context of the reality they were in.
right.
Okay. All of the, I mean, and you'll realize if you do that for yourself, virtually every single point is based on the context you're in. All of your likes, dislikes, preferences, beliefs, everything. Like, if you did not grow up in a Christian country, you grew up in a Muslim country, you'd be Muslim. You're not Christian because it's the true religion. You're Christian because that's what you got indoctrinated into. You're not transgender because it's true. You got indoctrinated into it. It's just the context and the environment you were in.
It's the funny thing is they believe, like, with that religion point, like, that's the point that's like, and this is what gets you into heaven. So just hold on to this one thing that's like completely just about what environment you were born in and who your parents were and how they influenced you. It's completely about that. And it's just like, and that's who you are. That's it. That's what gets you into heaven. So you can just accept all the other bullshit as well, you know?
And if you actually had applied some common sense, you would have seen through it. It's like, I remember when I was a kid going like, but the fact that there's multiple religions that have differences within them proves to me that none of them are real.
Right.
Like, because there can only be one at most that's real. That's correct.
That's my
But
religion.
the fact that it's
Cameron.
even possible for there to be multiple,
It's
not real.
Christian, and the Muslims are the ones faking it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like, oh, well, you just happen to be born.
Meanwhile, the Muslim is saying the exact same
They're
thing.
saying the
about the
exact
Christian.
same thing. They're applying the same
Exactly.
logic, and they're doing it based on the same exact feelings that you're experiencing.
Right.
So it's literally
I
the
just
same.
felt the spirit tell me.
It's like the computer going, Mac is the best operating system, and the Windows is going like, Windows is the best operating system, and they're just arguing about that.
Yeah.
And like, they're just operating systems. They're artificial.
I was thinking of this in the context of, like, you know, if you were an AI program thinking that you were real, like if you were in the computer, a program in the computer thinking that you were real, and then when the computer shuts off, you disappear, right? It's like, imagine like you're trying to like explain to the other programs or express to the other programs that you're a real program, and they're like, no, like, you get shut off.
See, but that's a great example because that program only exists in the context of all the other information on the computer.
Right.
And could you take that program out of the context of the computer?
No.
It doesn't have any tangibility to it. It's
Right.
only in relation to the information. It's stored on a hard drive.
Yeah.
All your memories, everything you remember about grandma, when you die, all of her memories of who you are gone too, because she can't take those memories. They were stored physically in her body. She can't take them with her. So you go to heaven, you're just going to see like a little ball of whatever just floating around. And she's like, hello, who are you? Like, it's not going to be your fucking grandma anymore.
So you remember reading Permutation City, right?
Yeah.
So at a certain point, they reach basically immortality, right? Or they see like, oh, I've been alive for 7,000 years, whatever, right? And too much context, but basically, imagine going into immortality. It was interesting to show like the problems that they had before becoming immortal, where they were like, oh, I'm gonna live forever, so it's gonna be okay. Like, they're still facing the same fucking problems within themselves. Nothing
The
changed.
starting point hasn't changed.
Exactly.
So you're just going to recreate, even if you went to heaven. And this is the whole idea of like, no, but there's forgiveness. Don't worry, God's going to forgive you. It's like, well, he already died to forgive your sins the first time, and it didn't change a fucking thing. So why would
how
he
many
change?
times do you?
It's like, but if I'm dead and I don't have a body and I can't fucking do anything, then everything will be okay. And it's like, there's not going to be anything there. You know, Mitch pulled up the definition of abort while we were talking, right? And it's really interesting if you look at it, just to look at the Google definition, right? Because one of them says, it's talking about the context of biology. And it says to remain undeveloped, to fail to mature. Right? And again, extenuating circumstances aside, we're not talking about the 1%, we're talking about the 99%. The average person who's arguing for and getting abortion and so forth is an extremely immature being. Because they've just up to that point, and I'm not talking about the extenuating circumstance. I'm talking about just the average point. The point where the person had sex, got pregnant, and it's just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have a kid. I don't want to take that responsibility. I don't want to, it's my life. I can't do this. I want to have my own thing. They're extremely immature. They're not looking at what they can give. That person only exists in the context of this program running in their mind, which is not real. Now, what's fascinating is, look at our system right now. It's fucked. And we've talked about this many times, all the supply chain issues, all the shit going on, the Great Reset, COVID, blah, 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 all the shit that's very obvious now to anyone who actually cares at all to look at it, right? The system is not working anymore. It's coming to an end. And it's either going to come to an end as a crashing fucking halt, or it's going to come to an end and then we create something new out of that. So when you go and you have an abortion, after that moment, what do you do with your life?
You've already aborted yourself.
But I mean, doesn't the person just go right back to what they were doing?
Yeah.
They don't go, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to really create a new life. You're not creating the new life because you're aborting that one that's coming in. You're denying that person to exist. Think about this. What right? You've already taken the step of the person starting to exist. And now you're like, you know what? You don't get to exist anymore. You don't have the right to exist. And then to act like someone else doesn't have the right to tell you that. How can you say the government doesn't have a right to tell you when they actually physically have the ability? When you're like, I have the right to just say that this being doesn't exist anymore. But then also, think about this. Life begins at conception. No, it doesn't. Come on, that's just a clump of cells. Okay, fine. All right, let's play that game for a second. All right, child is born, right? They're transgender. They're just brainwashed. That's who they are. It's intrinsic to their soul and their being. That's who they were. Whoa. I thought none of that was valid. I thought it was just a clump of cells. And then it's just now, what you've got is a conglomeration of personalities. That's not a real person in there. It's just an organic robot. And they just are misprogrammed incorrectly. Let's brainwash them. Let's get the gay out of them. Let's get the trans out of them. It's not a big deal. It's not who they are. There is no intrinsic anything, because if there was, when does it start? Just magically the moment they pop out your vagina? Or you're fucking probably not even having vaginal births anymore. Yeah. Wherever they come out of,
that's offensive to people who don't have
out of the decanter. They came out of the decanter.
Yeah, or they come out your butt, I guess, if you're a trans woman or something. I don't know how they do it. But it's like, okay, so the moment it comes out, suddenly that's when it's like a being, a person.
No, because you can still abort those, apparently.
So how far? I mean, do you see my point? They can't even abort their own fucking biases. You can't even abort your own preferences that are in the way of actually doing what's best. So you're taking the easy way out. Well, think about what it's like. What would be less painful? The being literally being killed in the womb, the child, the unborn child, whatever you want to call it, or you taking the process of, I'm going to remove all the points within me that's causing me not to take responsibility for my life and for the system that we live in. Which one do you want to experience? Which one would you prefer to experience? Actually, if you had to be the child being aborted. So when you look at the system is like the parent choosing, am I just going to fucking commit suicide? Am I going to kill this thing? Or are we going to actually rebirth it and actually have something that's really fucking cool and start over?
Yeah.
And when you look at the definitions of abort on Google, the second one says to bring to a premature end because of a problem or fault. You're bringing that child's life to a premature end because of a problem in your fucking mind.
Yeah.
Again, extenuating circumstances aside. Right? And one of the examples says also an act of aborting a flight, space mission, or other enterprise. And the quote is, there was an abort because of the bad weather. And I was like joking with Mitch, I'm like an emotional storm. Right? It's like, I can't handle this. So think about it. The system is currently going to abort all of us. And that's what it's having us do. It's telling everybody, Whatever you think you are, you're not that. You should embrace being gay. You should embrace being trans. You should embrace transhuman. You're not a physical body. You don't need to own anything. Don't worry about it. It's like, it's demanding of us that we reshape everything we think about ourselves. But the person who's having a child can't reshape themselves into, how do I now shift from it's all about me, self-interest only, to I'm actually going to figure out how I can give more. And there's no reason why I can't support this child, because, hey, I know about TechnoTutor. I can fucking educate them to be a fucking genius. I can support myself through TechnoTutor and DIP to remove all my limitations and my fears and my beliefs and all these and all this stuff. And then I can stand up and support the system to be best for all. Like, why would you not want that? And how's that going to happen what if everybody decided to abort every child that came into the world? Do you understand that the system wouldn't even be able to handle the pensions?
Yeah.
Like, imagine you are a career woman. All right. You don't need to have a baby right now because you got to do your career. I'm going to go and have my career, and I'm going to get my retirement, and I'm going to do all this, and I'm going to invest in my 401k and the stock market and all this. But let's all abort all children. So there's no more people to fucking to go back into the system and replenish it. Guess what the point of your career was? Nothing.
Yeah.
How are you going to fund your pension anymore? No one's putting more money into the stock market. Like, it doesn't make any fucking, well, everyone else needs to have kids, but just not me. That'd be like a plant going, you know what? I'm not going to do seeds. You don't need any tomatoes on this plant. I'm just growing. I'm just a vine. First of all, it wouldn't even live. That's not what about the bees? The bees are going to be like, well, I guess we're fucked.
Yeah.
So you're not even fulfilling the purpose of what you physically are. And then you want to make up shit in your mind about what you are. It's like, I am whatever I identify as. But you don't even question what you identify as. Where did it come from? Did you actually investigate where it's like? And then the problem is a lot of it comes from the trauma that people experience of survival pressure, actual individual trauma that happens physically, like from abusive parents, abusive systems, people, teachers, whatever. All of those things compounded. You don't want to face that. You don't want to face the reality, this fear you have of, well, I'm not an abused person. But then you also want to claim that you're a victim the whole time. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, why don't you face the real trauma? You're trans because you're fucking confused about reality, because no one is telling you what reality is. They're telling you Santa Claus and every other fucking random ass Disney channel you're watching and everything. No one's talking about reality.
Yeah.
It's like with our kids, I remember one time we were talking about the whole boy versus girl thing. And, you know, and when I was talking about with Max, and he was like, and I was saying, like, you know, somebody thought they were a boy when they have a vagina and they have the XX chromosomes. And he was like, but that'd be like if you had a circuit and you were trying to put the positive in the negative. He's like, that wouldn't work. Like, he can understand that because he understands there's physical reality. He's like, the circuit wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. That's kind of the whole reason we taught him about logic and all these things, is so he can actually understand physical reality. Because guess what? Even the trans person needs their computer to work when they're logging into the metaverse so they can be a fucking tiger, whatever thing they are. And if their computer doesn't work, if somebody doesn't understand electricity, you can't just be like, well, I identify my computer as working.
My outlet identifies as a plug.
It sounds silly, right? It sounds silly, like, oh, but that's a totally different thing. It's like, yeah, that's called real physical reality. And you're in your mind where you think it can be whatever you want, but it can't. Because the very fact that you think you can identify with whatever you want, but then complain about racism, complain about discrimination, you're complaining about actual physical problems. That's where the problems are stemming from. Yes. The identification you're having is the symptom of the confusion, the mental disorder and confusion of trying to figure out a way to break out of the bounds of the physical slavery that you feel yourself within. But you're not directing physical reality, someone else is. It's only going to become more restrictive, which means even if you get the affirmation of the thing you're identifying as, the physical prison is still going to be severe, and it's going to get worse, and then it's going to feel even worse, and you're going to feel like there's something else that's missing. And then there's going to be another thought from your mind, oh, it's because of this, and you need to identify as that and have this affirmed. And it's like, literally imagine a child whose parent is just like, I'm not going to pick you up. I'm not going to talk to you. You go cry in your room. You're not a baby anymore. That's all you are. You're just like, somebody, please love me. Like, acknowledge me, like, recognize me, please. Like, just let me be with you. You know, like I was talking with Mitch, and like, It's challenging when you have people over and the kids are like, pick me up, do this. I want to play, like, come with me. I want to talk to you about this thing that's just about what the kid wants to talk about. And the adults are trying to talk. And I was saying to him, obviously to a certain degree, we're here to talk about, business and all the other things. And I'm like, but when we're here, when it's just us as a family, it's just whatever the kids are wanting to do most of the time. And if I need to focus on business, I go to the office or I go into a place where like the kids know, like, so they're not just seeing me standing there ignoring them. Like, no, it can't be 99% of the time I'm telling the kids, no, I'm not picking you up. Now there's a certain point where when you're 5 years old and we're walking, I'm not carrying you anymore. Like if in this one moment you really want me to carry you, that's fine. Let me pick you up. Let's walk a little bit. But now you're getting at an age where your body's getting bigger. You have to walk. Okay. Do you notice no one carries me because I'm an adult? So you're going to have to learn now to start walking on your own to a certain degree, right? So it's like we explain all of that. It's not just a nope, I don't carry you. No, I'm not reading you that book anymore. You can read now. Like I'm not reading anymore. Like, no, I don't. It's like, cause you're just fucking tired of doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over. But to them, it's like the thing that brings them joy because that's like what was fun. Imagine as a parent, you read a book to your kid and you're all animated and it's super fun. And to them, they're like, wow, that was really cool. Do it again. You're like, no, I'm tired of doing it. So you just over and over, like, I'm not doing what you want to do anymore. And that's what parents do. So how do they take the easy route? Just let them watch the Disney show. Just get their joy out of that. But that's not real. That's not real human interaction. And so all these people are starving for that. And they're coming up with all kinds of crazy shit in the mind, which is not even coming from them. A 2-year-old or a 3-year-old who's like, I'm a non-binary. That's vocabulary that someone taught them.
Obviously.
Like we were talking about this person, somebody that Mitch and Jess know, and their kids like Jojo Siwa. Y'all know about Jojo Siwa?
No.
You wouldn't. But everybody who's listening, look up Jojo Siwa. Just pause it, look up Jojo Siwa. Okay, you guys can look at it afterwards, whatever. But the point is, it's like this girl who you look, she was like on Dance Moms, and she like, she dances and sings and all this stuff. And it's kind of like a Miley Cyrus character, but it's primarily on YouTube.
And she like makes music now.
She makes
does
music.
concerts.
She does concerts. She's actually huge. She has a huge following on YouTube and probably on Instagram and all those other things too, and TikTok now, I'm sure. But she's got like, she's blonde, ponytail, like I love, like dancing and candy and sugar and all these like rainbows and unicorns and shit like that. And it's just like, bleh. Like you watch it and you're like, fuck, I can't take this, right? But lots of kids like it, of course, right? It's like the pink and the rainbows and everything, right? Anyways, it's super attractive to children.
I
That's
just
12 million subscribers on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just a lot for a YouTube
That's
channel.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a lot for
Khan
YouTube.
Academy has like 12 million.
She's
And those kids have to be
I
forced.
remember seeing something about her a long time ago, or like years ago. So I started looking into it and watched a couple of the music videos and stuff. And it's like, she's always about like her dream was to like be on the stage and have all the followers. So it's like all her lyrics are about, you can achieve your dream like me of having all, and it's like, but you wouldn't have the dream if they were all doing their dreams. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's anyways. The reason I brought it up is because this girl is now telling her fans, she came out recently of like, she's now they, them. Mm-hmm. It's so obvious. Like when you look at her character, she's a fucking girl, but it's obviously an attempt. And maybe the girl actually is participating in it, but it's really obviously also an attempt to just jump on the bandwagon. It's like, who the fuck cares about Harry Styles? Except for the fact that now he's got the dress and now he's non-binary. I wouldn't even fucking continue to know about Harry Styles. Did he come from One Direction? Is that what it's from?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I wouldn't even continue to know about it except for that. And there's another one. Is it Demi Lovato? I think is non-binary. And there's another one too.
What?
Halsey. See, I only know about these names because they're in the news for being
Ellen Page, right?
Ellen Page, right?
Also, yeah.
It's like a way of being relevant. It's just, again, the new normal.
It's so funny because I literally don't know celebrities. Like
It's so funny because what if these celebrities were just like, hey, we should do what's best for all and like educate future generations to be fucking geniuses.
But they
The thing is,
can't.
they're like puppets, right? So it's
Because
like,
they're
oh, you
agent.
have this
Right.
much influence. There's
Yeah.
no
They're
way
agent,
you're going to be able to
Can't talk
speak.
about that, right?
Exactly.
It was funny. There was this this NFL coach or somebody like that recently, I think for the Raiders, who was like talking about, made some posts about the January 6th thing and how it's like not really a big deal. And like, it was, it's just
That's
whatever.
awesome.
And then he went on a press conference and was like, yes, he's like addressing the point. Like, I'm not backing down, like just because there was a little dust up at the Capitol, and all this stuff. And then a couple days later, he issued an apology. He's like, I apologize. I realize my words have consequences and they hurt people when I referred to it as a dust up. And it's like, oh, and he caved in. Why? Because it's like probably people at the board were like, oh no, when you said those words, that was actually effective persuasion. People started thinking about it differently. We can't have that. Everything else you said, people got pissed off, whatever. But this actually made people think differently. And your words have actions, man. And you're the coach of the Raiders or whatever it is. Like, you want to keep this position? You saw what we did to Papa John. You saw what we did to there was another NFL coach, remember? And it was like some text message of some like locker room talk thing.
Yeah.
Bullshit, whatever it was that they all fucking do. And they brought him down. It was like a defensive coordinator or somebody. It was this thing that happened. I know. I follow these things because I'm always watching the Tim Pool and this and that, right? But my point is, the moment that you start to say anything that's actual common sense and not going along with what's being programmed, it's like, what is the well water? What is it that everybody's drinking from? It's entertainment.
Yeah.
Everybody needs that entertainment.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, if you have kids and you really are focused on your community and being together and supporting your children and supporting other people and giving, you don't care about being entertained. Like, I'm not sitting around like, oh, I need to watch that new show. What was the last fucking TV show I watched? It was years. It's like that. What is a woman? I still haven't even seen that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's like a topic that I'm like interested in, like this, in terms of the cultural conversation. I'm like, yeah, I've seen enough clips. I get it. I'm not going to sit down and watch a movie for an hour and a half. I'm not going to do it. I get the point, because it's like, we have stuff to do. And that to me is entertaining, and it's like, if it's something that's necessary or there's like something I can take from it and use it to sell or whatever, I get it. But just the point of like, I need to entertain myself. I used to be there. That's like so irrelevant. So since I don't have that, I'm not going to get programmed by all that bullshit. I can look at it objectively. I don't need to consume this. I can actually just look at it. And same with the kids. Their entertainment is watching videos on calculus and building robotics. Like the other day we were watching we're supposed to go.
Entertainment is actually learning. Like,
exactly. We have to go and we're going to meet the family for brunch, but I just want to add this point. Like, we were talking with the kids and we were reading a book, I, Robot. And there's this part where they create this interstellar drive that can jump from one star to the next. And I was explaining to Max, it's like instantaneous. And he goes, but if you traveled that far, that fast, he was like, your body would shrink down to the size of an atom's nucleus. And I was like, why do you say that? And he goes, because of relativity. It's called length contraction. I'm like, this is my 5-year-old. He just applied a concept from relativity theory, special relativity. He even said it was special relativity. He knew. In this context of this book we're reading, he's like, if you traveled that far in that short a time period, you'd experience length contraction. You'd shrink down to the size of that. Like, he can fucking process that and apply it from a video that he was watching. That's his entertainment.
That's insane.
Right? We got to go. We have to abort early, guys. Sorry. We got brunch. I have to go be with my actual living children. So instead I have to abort the podcast, but we're going to go have brunch.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Everyone, abort your fucking egos this week and forevermore.
There you go.
Go do the damn thing that you have to do. Do your process. Join the calls. And like, I'll just say this one other thing is, look at this group, Self-Perfected, as what can you give? Because you're going to get out of it, right? This past hour and a half, you got entertainment, right? You got updates on current events, different ways of looking at things. But like, also when you look at those Friday night hangouts or just being in the group and commenting and interacting, look at it as, what can you give to this group? Because what other fucking group is standing up saying, hey, there's well water that's poisoned. Better fucking hurry up before it becomes all consuming.
And without any bias of like, and it's because of Jesus and the revelation and this, and it's like the beast. And you're like, oh, God damn it. They don't.
Yeah. It's just like fucking common sense. Like, look at the group for yourself. If you need a refresher on the principles, it's on the website. Just be part of the group and give.
If the ego comes up and you start having thoughts and fears, just say, here's the, like in like some materials, they say cancel. We're going to say abort. right? Say that to yourself. Just have an abortion every moment of your ego. Every time your ego fucks you and then creates a little baby, which is a thought and a fear, it starts to grow inside. Fucking have an abortion right there.
Mhm.
Just forgive yourself. That's like Jesus was way ahead of his time. I mean, think about it.
Mhm.
The crucifixion was just like a abortion 30 years after Jesus was born. God was like, I'm going to abort my son to like save humanity, right? So we don't need to do all that weird blood sacrifice stuff. Let's just abort the ego and stop that from growing inside of you, right? And look, hey, the system is not in control of you anymore. You have choice. Roe v. Wade, they said the power goes back to the states. So the power comes back to you now.
Mhm.
You've severed your relationship. God's not going to solve everything. It's the individual has the power now to make the choice, right?
That's good.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys later.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Ciao.